It's May in Felixstowe. We're expecting a really nice bank holiday weekend, but are we going to get one? I don't know. It's Tuesday as we're filming this. The weather looks fairly dire, but who knows, it could come out nicely. Today we're talking to the ex-mayor, the retired mayor of Felixstowe. That's a man called Mike Deacon. He's a Labour councillor. He's on both Felixstowe Town Council and Suffolk Coastal District Council, and he's agreed to have a chat with us at the end of his period as being mayor. Interesting to see what he says, be interesting to see what other people say about what he says. So let's talk to Mike. It's freezing, the wind is blowing, I think half a gale really, isn't it?
I think you could safely say that.
And this man beside me is Mike Deacon, who was the Mayor of Felixstowe. He retired from that job just a couple of weeks ago. And one of his last pronouncements was, "I'm disgusted." Tell us what you were disgusted with.
Okay, thanks very much. Well, it's a very, very good example of what I'm disgusted with. Right behind us, what was a very pleasant boating lake, which has been allowed to go to rack and ruin. About a year ago, well, I can tell you exactly when it was the weekend of the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. I was here and horrified by what I saw. And I complained to Suffolk Coastal District Council. I really did think they would try hard and do something about it. Almost a year later, here we are yet again with an absolute mess right in the middle of our seafront. Whatever must holidaymakers think of this? So there are other aspects as well. If you walk along the promenade in the general direction of the ferry, there are notice boards that have got graffiti on them, and that needs to be removed. And also there are some plates on the wall, information plates, which are being torn off the wall. And it's little things like that that don't do anything good for our resort. The holiday weekend a couple of weeks ago, there were thousands of people for the vintage car rally. What they must have thought of this, I dread to think. And that really was my main beef. One
of the things that comes across to me as I've been talking to councillors now for years and years is how few times, how infrequently someone on the council, either the local council, the town council, the district council, or even the county council, actually says something that comes straight from their heart, as I can tell that comes from with you. Why is that, Mike?
Well, I think I care passionately about Felixstowe. I want to see it succeed. We're not having a lot of help from Suffolk Coastal District Council. They'll tell you the opposites of that, but I firmly believe they're not. We've lost our theatre. Hopefully somebody's going to come along and it's going to reopen, but that's closed. That was very much part of the holiday offers. And, you know, there's just little things like, well, major things like this that I think could detract people from coming.
Mike, behind us we've got the old disused hotel. That's been standing there for how long, do you know? A long time? It's
a very long time. It's been empty, and you can see that it's almost looking derelict now. It's a very unfortunate looking building, but it once was a very good hotel. I can remember as a young person going there quite often, and it was a very pleasant place to go. Very sad that it's like it is now.
What can we do to encourage people, to encourage, I don't know, developers, whoever, to try and do something with the building?
I guess you've got to improve this area of the town, full stop.
Right.
Once that's done, perhaps it would sell itself. But as it is now, as I said earlier, I don't think anybody would find it a particularly attractive proposition.
Because if you looked out at this bomb site from your hotel room, or
it's not very nice, is it?
Oh.
And I'd hate to personally go to a hotel on holiday and look out of my window and see a scene like that. It's just, well, it's just not on.
I suppose you could call this the road to nowhere, Mike.
I guess you could.
It's a bit sad, isn't it?
It is very sad.
What could you do? I mean, many people on the Felixstowe Forum particularly have suggested a few ideas as to what you could do with this. You could fill that pool in with sand and have a play pit.
Yeah,
you could do
indeed.
Something with
you
it.
could have beach volleyball. You know, there's people employed that could market that quite easily, I would have thought, and it wouldn't cost an awful lot of money to tidy it up. As I've already said, it is a disgrace, and it could be used, and it could be used very advantageously, I would suggest.
I've always thought that there's some space kind of down here as well in the old racetrack to use for things like, I don't know, for skateboards.
Yep.
I was filming with the guys at the skateboard park last year, in fact, and they said they'd love to have a place down here where you'll get a bit of an audience and you get a bit of excitement and interest.
And there's a group of lads, parkour, that I'm sure would love to use somewhere like this. It doesn't really take an awful lot of imagination.
Well, this is actually rather nice, isn't it? It's still cold. It hasn't got better. It's a bit lighter and brighter, isn't it?
It is, yep.
But we're standing out on the stub of Felixstowe's pier. Behind us, well, an iconic Felixstowe building, if you like, the Spa Pavilion. What's going to happen, Mike?
Well, as you know, the Spa Pavilion has now been closed since the beginning of the year. The pantomime at Christmas was the last production there. Very, very sad to see it close. I have to say that it was a real low spot for me as the mayor of this town. There is interest in the theatre, and hopefully it's purchased and we will see it reopened again as a theatre, perhaps a cinema in part, a restaurant, whatever, but certainly an entertainment centre for Felixstowe and the visitors to Felixstowe.
Do you really think that will happen, or do you think it's kind of all in the lap of the gods, or what?
I think it is in the lap of the gods, but I really truthfully do hope it happens.
Okay. Standing here on the pier, this could be the last year, or maybe the last but one year, that we have a pier that looks anything like this.
Yes, indeed, there are plans to replace this with, you used the word iconic about the spa, but from the plans I've seen for the replacement of this pier, a truly iconic building, which I'm sure will be enjoyed by residents and visitors alike in the future.
One of the things that's got me over the last 9 years of working in Felixstowe and surrounding district, we've got Suffolk County Council, we've got Suffolk Coastal District Council, and we've got Felixstowe Town Council.
Yes.
On all three of those, we have what I can only call the dead hand of one-party rule. The Tories are in charge and have been in charge almost forever.
Yep.
How does that affect the way our councils operate, really?
Oh, it's very, very sad that there's not greater opposition, I have to say, in either of those councils that you've mentioned. The recent county council elections, the Labour Party has increased its representation on the county council, but we're really underrepresented at the district council, and here in Felixstowe we only have 5 out of 15 councillors. Yeah. So, you know, it is difficult working against that sort of background.
Does that mean that things do or don't get done? I get the feeling that things don't get done because people are not so bothered. They know they're not under pressure to do stuff.
I think that might be a very true statement. What really, really does bother me, and I'm really quite worried about the fact that Felixstowe is on the end of a district. Right. It's it is the largest urban area in the district, and it's out on a limb. And we have representation from Felixstowe, which is vastly outnumbered by those councillors from the rural areas that I seriously believe do not understand the needs of an urban area like Felixstowe. I think that's one of the biggest problems.
I've often seen Felixstowe from the Suffolk coastal point of view as being effectively just a cash cow. It's got big business in the port, got lots of little businesses working around the port, and a reasonable sized population. In terms of Suffolk coastal, this place brings in the money. It does,
and I've tried to make that point so many times at Suffolk coastal in particular. I forget what the exact figures are, but I think there is about just under 20% of the council tax from the whole area comes from Felixstowe, and I think it's just under 30% of the business rate comes from Felixstowe. That's a tremendous financial contribution towards the district, and I think that's often forgotten by my fellow councillors there.
How do we encourage people? What can we possibly do to get more new blood into our councils that will take us into the future? Because let's be blunt, so many of our councillors, if they're not already drawing their pension or have been for 10 years, they soon will be. What's going to happen next on that?
You include me in that.
I know.
I don't really know what the answer is, but we desperately need young people, and I would suggest that all political parties must feel the same, young people to get involved in politics. I don't know what's reticent about it at the moment, but I know when I was about 18 or 19, I found politics really exciting, and I've grown up with it since then. And most of my political views were formed in those times? I frankly don't know what the answer is, but we definitely need young people to get involved, and we need to encourage them, because otherwise I just don't know what is going to happen. We're not going to live forever, that's for sure, and we will need replacements.
Younger people then are the issue when we look at where councillors of the future are coming from. How can you get younger people involved?
Well, one of the issues is the structure of the councils, and they're not structured to accommodate people with young families or their own business, and they have to be. And I think if they were more friendly in that direction, you might well attract younger people.
What particular ways could you do that?
Well, meetings could be held regularly in the evenings instead of the daytime.
Right.
That would be a big start. They should be a calendar of meetings which is not altered, that you can know from month to month when the meetings are, so you can build your own calendar around them. And again, for young people with families and businesses, that really is important.
Okay, if you did that, then wouldn't you get a lot of resistance from existing councillors?
Maybe, but they've got to realise that they're not going to be there forever, and somebody needs to come and take their place, and we should be encouraging them to do so.
Look to the future of yourself.
Yep.
Ooh. One of the things that we occasionally see at Felixstowe is the roundabout of mayors and people.
Yep.
When it's Buggin's turn next, are you going to be mayor again?
I would think it's most unlikely. It has been a hugely enjoyable year.
Yep.
I have to say, meeting the people of Felixstowe and doing all the things we did, it was absolutely wonderful, and both Annie and I really, really loved it. But it was hard work, and I'm frankly not getting any younger.
Right.
So,
talk to me a little bit about the hard work aspect, because being a councillor on its own is quite a commitment.
Yes.
Being a town councillor is a commitment.
Yep.
Being a district councillor is a lot more commitment.
Yep.
Tell me a couple of things. One, why are so many of our town councillors district councillors too?
It's
first.
Yes, okay. It's very. At one stage I was just a town councillor,
right.
And I found it very difficult just being a town councillor. Being the district councillor, you have access to far greater resources, I think is the best way of putting it. Okay. And I felt that I could serve members of my ward better as being both a town and district councillor than just being the town councillor, or indeed just being a district councillor.
When you look at the structure of the job, how much work does it entail if you are a reasonably responsible councillor doing both jobs? And in this instance, what are we talking about? I mean, is it feasible to run it properly with a normal day job, or what?
It's getting increasingly difficult to do that, I would suggest. Not impossible, but when I was at work, I worked for a very good company that were very sympathetic to what I was doing and were very generous with the amount of time that I was able to take to do it, and I was very appreciative of that. But it could be difficult. It is hard work. You've got a lot of, as well as all the meetings and the formal side of things, there is actually a lot of casework, people that ring you up and have problems which you try and resolve. In Felixstowe North Ward, which I represent with 2 other councillors, we have regular surgeries where we encourage people to come and see us if they've got a problem, or they want to discuss anything with us that's council related. And we take up, their case if we feel we can, or we put them in the direction of somebody else that can help if we can't. And of course, living in Walton, as I have done for many, many years, people know me, and they'll stop you in the street and speak to you, which is great. But there's always, something that there's an issue about, or somebody's got a problem, a housing problem, a benefits problem, things like that. And as time goes on, in this present climate, I'm afraid the problem's getting worse and worse.
We've had a look round. We've had a look at really a scene of dereliction on the other side of the pier. We've had a look at some good bits. The pier is going to be renewed. Talk to me about the future of Felixstowe. What do you see happening in the next few years?
Well, Felixstowe is a great little town. It's got a lot of potential, but at the moment it just needs a little tender loving care. I think given that, it could be great.